Hello there. Should all be
Are we
good.
in?
We should be in.
Oh, okay. I just always get thrown off because when I look at like the video, I can see us doing our sync up at the start.
Oh, right,
Well,
yeah.
I always get confused by that. It's like, wait, I thought no one could see this. Why am I seeing us sync up our audio?
Private,
That's
that
supposed to be our special private times between me and you.
bit.
And
Yeah,
people are
right.
going to learn our secret synchronization and editing techniques, and we can't share those. Without
Super
those, Fact
secret.
Fiend would be nothing.
Super duper secret.
Well, they are. We get asked about them enough, don't we?
I mean,
So
we just clap and then tell a stupid not joke that really isn't applicable when we're melting.
yeah, God, man, it's is it a second heat wave today?
God, yeah. The start, I think.
It feels like one.
Or maybe
This
yesterday was the start. But either way, it's shit and we spoke about it a lot, but it's going to be shit again.
Yes, so it's very warm, so you have to forgive our slovenly appearance. I think it's diplomatic to say for us both, and the rooms are a little darker than they maybe otherwise would be at this point in the day because we've both just got things that the sun cannot get in. Do not let the sun in.
Block it out. Mr.
And
Burns
the Mario sun is outside and he's frowning. Which I contend is one of the scariest parts of your childhood because that shit me up because I had no idea like things in games could do that.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's got to be like one of the first times that just an enemy like that has appeared, where it's like, oh no, it's just part of the scenery. It's like nothing to worry about, and then next thing you know, it's an actual enemy.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, well, just from gaming that it still holds up, I think, in terms of a threat.
I mean, I think it has to because people still meme on it now.
If it being an absolute roadblock for people playing that series, and I'm consistently baffled that we still find out things from video games that old to this day. Did you see the other day someone figured out there's a secret button combination for Punch Out where you can play two-player mode?
Yeah, there's just
Super 28 years later,
has a fucking two-player mode in it.
28 years after the fact, it's got two-player mode in there, and they're like, what?
This is Super Punch Out on the SNES.
You think that game's been torn apart, down to its nuts and bolts, and there's still stuff in there that people don't know.
And it's like, it turns out that if you've got a second controller port plugged in, you hold certain buttons, and then on the second pad to then press buttons on the first pad, and then if you've got to that new secret menu, you then hold buttons on the second pad again, and it's like, I mean, I can see why it's been hard to figure that out, but you just assume at this point that everything is been data mined to shit, and everyone knows everything about those old games.
Yeah, especially the ones that I played as much as those ones. It's like it blew my mind where I learned the chain chomps in Mario can escape their chains.
Oh, so yeah, they can, yeah.
If you stand next to a chain chomp and you let it charge 50 times, it breaks off its chain and chases you through the entire level. And it's like, who the fuck put that in? Who stood there long enough to do that?
Can you imagine though, coming back as a kid when you just ran the toilet and left Mario
Bros
on, and then next thing you know, you just walk past it and it's like, oh no, the chain chomp's broke free.
And it's coming to get you, and you're like, dear God, now. This is it. This is new fear unlocked. Just new phobia unlocked for childhood of just giant screaming balls of doggy fury.
I mean, I'm scared of giant screaming balls of doggy fury.
That's the one. That's what it was based on, wasn't it? It was a big scary dog that scared the shit out of Miyamoto on his walk home, and he had to run past the garden it was in.
Yeah.
Because it would just always get to the very end of its chain and almost get him. And he wanted to replicate that fear in Mario. But today's episode...
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3! I don't mind that one.
We are...
That's a nice easy number.
Next week's episode will be episode 100 of the non-brew season. As we're
taking that one off then, yeah?
just take
that one off.
100.
Just take that one off so it never gets released. Make it, or just say we did it and never release it.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone asks us, say, well, we did make it. It was released. Did you not hear? Did you not listen to it? We talked about oh no, all your favorite stuff. It's like what?
We talked about everything requested.
Just gaslight our audience about whether or not we're actually
it's there. Just find it in the feed. It'll be there. It'll be there. It's fine.
Remember that thing we did for what was it? Oh, it was years of we just say, yeah, if you want to go to the
if you want to play Smash Bros with us,
go to the Discord,
go to the private Discord.
And now we have a private Discord, so that joke makes no sense. It's like, damn.
Just be like, yeah, there's a secret Discord out there. The code is in there for you guys to join in.
Admittedly, there's 3 Discords below those Discords. We have Discords within Discords within Discords within group chats and all that good stuff.
the amount of different ones I've got for like different groups and stuff, and just like, oh, I've got like, I'm in one for my Twitch stuff, I'm in one for your Twitch stuff, I'm in one for like just us to chat, I'm in one for us to be like Fat Fiend recording. There's the Untitled side channel Discord for like Patreon members now, and that's like just for Fat Fiend Untitled side channel. I actually had to make another Discord server to invite someone to for recording last weekend. So I had to make like, because I've got a new video coming out with like a guest on, so I was like, we can't invite a guest to like an already public server or whatever, so I'll make another one. So I've got like a 6th one there, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, I think I saw that because when I logged into my Discord, she recorded that in my house. Your Discord was still logged in. I was like,
oh,
who the fuck are all these people? And, oh, it's Lucas's Discord. Let's just log out and log back into mine.
Well, thank you for not abusing it.
Well, I could have done. I could have just gone onto all your servers and been like, but why would I do that? I'm in my 30s now. I'm too old. I'm too old to do something like that because I know it'd bite me in the ass, because I can't use the excuse of, oh, come on. It's like, no, this is my work and professional life, mate. Calm down.
Yeah, and then it'd be like, why is like, the Macaulay Culkin shock face being used for every single Fat Fiend thumbnail?
Oh,
like,
no,
wow.
that's how you get your revenge. You get your revenge. Like, you control my work life. You control my public image. What can I do?
But yeah,
like, we trust each other with an inordinate amount of power over each other's personal and social lives.
Speaking of, having, I'd say like control over your public image.
Okay,
interesting thing that arrived in the post for me yesterday, Karl.
Okay, this is a segue and a half, so I'm curious where this is going.
Yeah, so I, after we collaborated and made a video about it, I decided I would purchase my own copy of the game Lady's Choice.
Has this got a poster in it?
This is the version with the poster in it.
I think I'm not supposed to see that.
You're not supposed to see it?
Yeah, John has been very specific that I'm not to see it. I'm supposed to give my live reaction to it in a video he's going to sponsor, but I'm not sure if it's the poster you get or if there's a special poster that I'm getting. It's been very unclear, and I've not spoke to him in a couple of weeks. I'm still waiting on it to be my version to be delivered.
Oh no!
So I wouldn't want to piss you off. Yeah, that's the thing, because I don't know if it's something that I am going to get specifically made for me, or if it's the same version you guys got, or if it's a specialized version of it. So I wouldn't like to spoil that for him if that happens to be the case.
Well, if that's the case, because I never knew that. To clarify, I was just going to surprise Karl with it. So I didn't realize you're making an additional video.
Yeah, let's err on the side of caution and just say, because I could double check right now, but that might take a few minutes to dig back through my emails and stuff.
It might take a
little bit. You have it. So you can continue the teasing.
And now that I know that I can't tell you what it is, that's a bit of a shame. But I will say it's like something that I wasn't expecting.
Okay. So this is making me really nervous now.
It's fine. Like, it's a funny thing.
Okay.
But just, yeah. Now that I can't show you, I'll just say, but the segue was accurate of me having some kind of effect on your public image. And that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
Fuck's sake. This thing I really don't like inside jokes, so I hope it's not an inside joke, because then we have to explain it. It's not an inside joke. Okay. It's
a joke specific to something in this whole process that we've gone through with
Lady's Choice. Fair enough. So that's me. I've been a bit scattered lately in regards to stuff involved with the channel, because it's spread so thin. Just trying to there's a lot going on. I've been trying I've got my fingers in a lot of pies, and there's only so much you can do when you've just fingers in pies. So we've got the side channel, the current channel. There's all the stuff I'm doing for both, because I have to write all the articles for Fact Fiend. I'm writing stuff for Untitled side channel, recording stuff for Untitled side channel. Brad is moving back to Sheffield, so we're currently in the process of trying to figure out a work recording and streaming schedule. There's also mine and yours individual streaming schedules, so we can plug those now. Mine's Karl Smallwood, just on everything. Yours is Legend of Canto _ yes.
No. So mine for my Twitch is twitch.tv/Legend of Canto, and then my social accounts where it's my Insta, TikTok, and Twitter are all Canto Legend _. And you can find links to that stuff in the description of the podcast. But I will quickly say, I'm very excited for the Twitch stream I'm going to do tomorrow.
Yes, that's a new game or something, isn't it?
New indie game coming out called Cult of the Lamb. And it it's part kind of like village simulation of like recruiting new people into your cult, and it's like got a very cutesy art style where you're like animals and you're the lamb, the last lamb alive, and like you start
The
this cult
powerful, like
and
the
you have
hero
to
lamb.
then go through like like kind of top down dungeon crawling, like similar to like Hades but a bit more simplistic. And then go take down bosses and stuff, and then go back to
Okay.
the village and kind of go through that cycle. And I'll be streaming that the night of this podcast going live for like YouTube and Spotify folks and stuff. Just found out today though, when the review's gone live, that it's also got a Twitch extension, which means that like chat in game can like go into a raffle to become the next cult member and like design their own villager and stuff.
Oh, you are going to get so many like edgy the hedgy
Yeah.
heterochromia motherfuckers like rolling up
I
into
don't
your
know how
village.
specific like the customization is, but like the
I
fact
hope
that
it
they
ends it.
can do that through the game and they can like use the Twitch app to design the little simple village character and stuff, and then they can make like they can influence like rituals inside of the village, or they can like
That's kind of neat, yeah.
influence what pickups and stuff I get in the dungeon and things. I was like, that's really clever that like we're getting to that point now where games are actually, integrating themselves properly within Twitch rather than just me having to do it myself as a streamer kind of thing.
Yeah, they're acknowledging Twitch as a platform and as an influence of like be positive on their game's success.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of any way to acknowledge it more directly than that. And speaking of Twitch, there's like Nisha and Brad's Twitch. Like Nisha is at Midnight Niche and Brad's is at Overdog. But I think he made another one, and that's one of the things we have to discuss with those guys.
Okay, yeah.
Then we have the upcoming live event at the end of this month. Tickets for which you can find below. That will be in the city of Sheffield. I'm currently in the process of sorting that out because me and you had to figure out getting the guitars to work. I'm currently speaking to the owner of the bar where it's going to be about like set up the stages, working out deposits, like how much stuff's going to be behind the bar, how many people we need, set up for that. Any additional things we need for getting like beer mats and stuff made as souvenirs for people.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I've had a lot on. So
It's
I
that thing,
apologize
isn't
to
it,
John.
like when you look at the difference between like Fact Fiend when I joined and Fact Fiend now, a few years later, is like obviously we also have one extra person helping with like some of the event stuff and things like that. But realistically, like for the last few years, the team has stayed the exact same size for the most part, and like we've just taken on more and more responsibilities and added extra work and stuff.
Our obligations and commitments have increased. Like I'd say like 2-3 folds. Like for me personally, the amount of work I do, I thought it was less because I'm writing less articles now. Then I realised I'm writing less articles because I used to write 5 articles a week, and now I'm down to 3. But, well, I'm getting 2 extra days off. It's like no, in those 2 days, I'm like filming, streaming, recording the podcast, recording the TikToks, doing stuff for the side channel, and then all of like the behind the scenes maintenance for it, like sorting out the office, all that good stuff. But then also maintaining a social media presence on like the 5 social medias that have like come into existence since I started using them. And it's like, whoa, it's a lot. And you don't realize it creeps up on you. So I apologize if I've been a bit scatterbrained in both my recollections of things recently and just in my presence online. I'm stretched a bit thin at the moment. I'm trying to do my best. But you mentioned Twitch streaming, and I wanted to talk about something I encountered while I was streaming the game Dante's Inferno. So are you familiar with the game Dante's Inferno?
I am, to the point where like I'm apparently the one who inspired you to fucking play it.
So Dante's Inferno, Lucas, describe it to the audience at home.
So it's kind of like, as far as I'm aware, a not great character action game from back in about 2010, made by EA.
I think 2010, yes.
Think kind of like Devil May Cry, God of War vibes, but not particularly like, as well received, but in that kind of vein of game. And it's a very edgelordy character with a scythe that he got from Death at the start of the game, I believe. And he's got like the emblazoned red cross stitched into his skin. And he like has to fight through all of the layers of hell, inspired by like I can't remember the name of the poem, but by Dante.
Yeah, Dante's Inferno by Dante Alighieri.
Is it called Dante's Inferno, right? Okay.
Dante's Inferno, yes. And something I didn't realize until right at the end of the game is you're actually playing as Dante Alighieri. You're not playing as like some random dude going through hell. You are playing as him.
Okay.
But the game is one of the edgiest games ever made, and I don't regret playing it because I think it's a very useful time capsule to see this is what video games used to be and this is what they could have become. Because you just talked about there a wholesome little indie game, admittedly based around a macabre concept, but was a lot of love and care, and I'm guessing a lot of inclusivity options, as most indie games include these days.
I'm not sure about inclusivity options. I like, as far as I've seen customization wise and stuff, it's just, oh, here's a bunch of villages where you're just like cute little lambs and squirrels wearing death robes and worshipping a totem of a god. It's like,
okay. By inclusivity, though, I mean just just in the wider sense of like the people who are working on the game and being invited to play and review it and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely like there's a wide variety of streamers I've seen playing the demo and previewing it and reviewing it and stuff. And then also there's a lot of accessibility options in the game.
Stuff like
text size options and subtitles and like anti-flicker and stuff for like light sensitive people.
Which is just a representation of the industry as a whole making a step forward for inclusivity in for everyone to enjoy video games. Whereas Dante's Inferno is firmly in that dude bro edgelord era of video games that I'm so glad he's dead. And I don't think it's more perfectly summed up than by a moment I experienced right at the very end of the game. Because there's a system in the game. You mentioned that you get Death Scythe throughout the game. You get Death Scythe, and you also get a cross that belongs to your wife, who is not a character but a plot device, which is problematic in of itself. But you have a gameplay mechanic of you can absolve or punish the various denizens of hell that you encounter, and including some real people from history and some figures from mythology.
Okay.
And there is a moment in that game that was so bad I had to put my controller down, and just, I'm Macaulay Culkin face. I can't believe this made it into a video game. Given the hindsight of modern sensibilities, it's so bad. So I'm just going to describe the screenshot I have in front of me, and it's and it makes it fun as well because I had a gimmick on my stream of are we going to punish everyone we find or absolve everyone we find? And absolve is just like good boy mode with a little PNG of Bible man, and then killing everyone is called edge mode with a picture of Zack Snyder.
Oh, right.
So keep in mind there's a picture of Zack Snyder on this screenshot with edge mode underneath.
Is I don't know if you looked into it. Is it one of those games like BioShock where you basically have to lean one or the other or you get punished? Like you have to punish everyone or absolve everyone, otherwise you get like the shit ending.
You can max out both very easily if you just spam certain attacks, but one method of attack is way better than the other one for mechanical reasons. That's too boring to get into the podcast, but check out my channel. I have the link below, or you can search for it, where you can see the full playthrough. I break it down in more detail, but the screenshot is simply so you're in a section of hell. And this is the section of hell for deceivers, because everyone in Dante Alighieri's epic poem, there's different sections of hell for different tiers of sins, and one of the deepest and darkest pits of hell, where you are subjected to the most infernal punishment imaginable, is specifically laid out for deceivers. And the deceiver that you encounter is a lady called Tiresias. I'm just going to read out their description for you verbatim. The blind prophet of Thebes, judged to the 8th circle of fraud. He changed himself from man to woman, indulging in the pleasures of both. And then you simply have an option at the bottom that says punish or absolve. And just everything about that screenshot made me lose my shit. Because I was like, this is bad.
Like labeling that as a deceiver and somebody that changed from what man to woman did you say to indulge in both is.
And they've been sent to hell for the punishment of deceiving others.
Yeah.
And then it dead names them. Not dead names, but misgenders them right there in the descriptor. And the fact that they're in hell already frames it as this is the person who belongs to me. And then what makes it even worse is after the fact I was curious, is this a real person from history or is this a mythological figure?
Yeah.
It turns out they are a mythological figure from Greek mythology. Okay. And it turns out that their real story from mythology is nothing like this at all. It was, I believe it is, a guy who gets cursed by the gods to become a woman. lives their life as a woman, finds the gods again, is like, what the fuck, turn me back, and gets turned back. And the makers of this game are like, nah, let's just make it super transphobic, put it in the game, give the option to murder them for deceiving others. Oh. And it's just like, I legit like stopped playing the game. I was like, this is bad. And this is something I'm so glad we've left behind. Well, like, that era of video games.
Fucking hell. Like, as you say, just like full on openly transphobic, and it's like, yeah, let's just deal with it. So Dante's Inferno, what year did that come out?
2010. I've got it in front of me now.
2010, right, okay, yeah. Dear God, so you think back, like, this is literally 12 years ago. And that's bad. Like, I don't even know what to say.
That's the one, and I was just like, one of the things I mentioned on my stream is like, this is such a perfect encapsulation of why this era of video games can go fuck itself. And why when you see people like harkening back for the good old days of video gaming, this is what they want. Like, when they talk about like, the era of Call of Duty and stuff, do you know that thing of like, you wouldn't last in a Call of Duty lobby? It's like, you just want to be openly racist to people. Why would you want that?
I don't mind when people have like rose-tinted lenses in terms of like, oh, I really love like, you know, SNES games and I love like pixel aesthetics and stuff like that. But when it's like, oh, let's get back to the good old 360 days of game, and I'm like, where everything was grey and everyone just screamed racist, horrible like slurs to each other in open lobbies. It's like, I don't want every bit of gaming to revolve around the idea that we need to market something to a 14-year-old man. Or, you know, boy at that age. Like,
it's something I say as well. I mentioned like, in the game, your wife is like a plot device, and every moment she is on screen, her tits are out. Literally every moment she is on screen, just tits are out on display. Really well rendered as well, and that's one of the things that's really annoying. It's like the game looks really good, but it's in service of this absolute tripe of a storyline. But the basic plot line is she gets taken to hell because she makes a deal with the devil that you, the main character, would not be a piece of shit. Your main character is a piece of shit, and the devil kidnaps her soul. And your character's like, give me back my wife. And the only time in which your wife is shown wearing anything that's like modest is when she is like taken over by the devil.
Of course.
So, and if anything, like, so it just shows it's like she has more modesty, agency, and control over her own like destiny when she's not directly linked to your main character.
I mean, I didn't know too much about the game other than it being like not overly well received, and I played like the demo back in the day and was like, ugh, no thank you. And yeah, I didn't realize how fucking bad it was, especially looking back with this more modern lens.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's valuable to do that, to see it like this is how far we've come. And Lucas, would you like to just discuss the marketing of this game? Because like this is one of those things where EA were all in on this, where they thought this was going to be the next God of War.
Because this came out. I remember it having a big marketing footprint at the time, like
a huge one. So we have it here. So before the game's release, Dante's Inferno underwent a prominent, at the time, elaborate marketing campaign led by the game's publisher, Electronic Arts. The numerous advertisements highlight certain sins associated with the circles of hell, at time promoting fake services before accusing the viewer of a sin linked to it. So we have here like Electronic Arts partnered with GameStop for a one-day promotion, where on the game, on the year September 9th, 2009, so the date will be 999, that pre-orders of the game would get you a $6.66 discount. And that one's fine.
Okay, yeah.
A bit on the nose, but sure, like, you know, number of the beast. They also conducted an unsolicited mailing in which checks for $200 were sent to video game critics with the following note. In Dante's Inferno, greed is a two-headed beast. Hoarding wealth feeds one beast and squandering it satiates the other. By cashing this check, you succumb to avarice. By hoarding filthy lucre, but not cashing it, you waste it. Thereby surrender to prodigality. Whatever that word means. That's a really cool word. I'm going to have to look at what that means.
I'd also argue that it wouldn't be wasting any money.
But that's the thing as well of they sent money to games journalists, you know, that well-paid lucrative position of games reviewer, and then admonish them for cashing a check from Electronic Arts. If Electronic Arts sent me a check, I cash that shit straight away.
If anyone can't tell, like, game reviewers are very underpaid. game journalists in generally aren't paid well. They're just like, it's one of those things of like, well, you give a shit about what you're talking about, so you shouldn't be paid very well because you'll want to do it anyway. But yeah, the idea that like, oh yeah, no, games journalists for a long time have had to stave off the ideas that weird fanboys come up with of like, you were paid off to give this game X rating.
Yeah, and that's one of the things as well of like, that's a really bad look because they also in their note say, well, if you waste this, you're wasting money that could be used to help somebody. So you're shitting on them either way. Another viral marketing campaign was launched and featured a website and ad for a fake religious game called Mass, We Pray, a motion controller-based game supposedly allowing players to engage in interactive prayer and church sermon. When you attempted to order the game, the website would deem you a heretic and play a trailer for Dante's Inferno.
I mean, I don't mind that. That's pretty good.
That one's kind of fun. And that's the but they I think this shows how all in they were on this game. So they were like, and the game, I lost my shit so hard when it ends with this super edgy cutscene where your main character hasn't learned anything, and it shows them on like, the steps to heaven, and the thing at the bottom comes up to be continued.
Oh wow!
Okay. And I lost my shit, looked it up. No sequel cancelled 2 years later.
And I'd argue as well, like, it wasn't necessarily like the marketing, like. Again, like that moment that we talked about earlier is like awful to look at now, but not many people talked about it back then, so it wouldn't have been enough to like kick up a fuss when it was released. The game just got bad reviews.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like the benefit of hindsight. And I think it's worth going back to these older games. I would have never known that was in the game.
No.
The other thing I talk about with Revengeance having like the weird messaging of like kill the police for bonus style points and no one talking about it, and it's really compellingly distressing for me that no one's talking about it despite it being popular now. It's the same thing with this of like, man, this just completely flew under the radar because no one gave a shit back then.
And it's kind of,
they just cared that the game was bad.
Come up a little bit today, almost the opposite of this Rising thing of like, today was either the release or the review embargo at very least of Spider-Man PC release.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people are like, in 2018 it felt a little bit weird, but in 2022, like setting up a police surveillance state in the middle of New York, and that being framed as like a good thing and helping the cops out, that game already 4 years later feels like real bad. Real bad
we talked about it. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we did when we did a playthrough of it, like, what, 2020?
Yeah.
And even
we
then
talked about
like,
how it's aged poorly because you have Spider-Man going, police are the real heroes. The police would never violate anyone's civil liberties. And we talked about how
a year or two later, it's like, oh, all the BLM stuff happened, and
there
was a big surge, and it's like against that kind of mentality.
It's how we talked about, like, with Miles Morales, of like, they're going to have to address this because in the short time, I contend that game is one of the quickest. It's the quickest a game has aged poorly because it's like core message.
Spider-Man, not Miles Morales.
The 2018 Spider-Man, its core message was out of date within 6 months.
God. I just realised how like blue our backgrounds are while we're saying this.
That's not bad, is it?
No.
But it's alright though, Lucas. Are you ready for some more stuff they did? Because they didn't just do this, they also created an application called Go to Hell for Facebook, and that lets users condemn their friends, groups, or photos to one of the 9 circles of hell, where users can vote to punish, absolve, or torment them with activities like beast massage or succubus castration. In 2009, EA sent a series of packages to various reviewers, including Veronica Belmont of PlayStation Official Magazine, Ben Yahtzee Crossshaw. The package contained a small wooden box which, when open, played Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, thus Rick rolling the journalist that received it. The music could not be stopped by any means other than by destroying the box, using the hammer and goggles provided. After destroying the box, a note read that they had given into wrath, as the note that they found within the box. And you know what? I support doing that.
Yeah, I was
That's actually kind of good
until the note came into it. I was like, what does Rick Astley have to do with Dante's Inferno? And it's like, yeah, okay.
They even, Lucas, this is how much they pushed it. A commercial for the game was shown during the Super Bowl.
Hell, that's a lot of money.
Another secretly fake commercial for the fictional company Hawk Panther encouraged viewers to visit the Hawk Panther website in order to steal their best friend's girlfriend. If the link found If the link to find out more about the Hawk Panther systems is clicked on a message, a message appears stating, "Treachery, thou art condemned to the ninth circle. You have broken the bond of trust with thy kindred. You shall pay for your treachery by spending an eternity immersed up to your face, the place where shame itself shows, in the putrid frozen waters of hell." The site would also show a trailer for Dante's Inferno and a link to buy the game.
And then when you click on the link, it should say EA have succumbed to greed. It's like EA shall be condemned to a ninth circle.
Prior to the release, in June, a protest began at E3 2009 in LA to oppose the game. Around 20 protesters claimed to be from a church in Ventura County held up signs that called the game sacrilegious and labeled it possibly insensitive to people's belief. The protesters went as far as calling EA the Antichrist, which, is accurate. This led to EA being accused by many people of staging the fiasco as a marketing hoax. A few days later, it was officially confirmed by EA spokesman Tammy Shater that they had hired the people to protest the game and there'd been no actual protest.
Oh, fucking hell.
So they hired people to protest their own thing because not enough people gave a shit.
I was going to say, tell me no one gives a shit about your game without telling me no one gives a shit about your game.
That's the thing, listen to how much push they gave that. And I have the reviews here. Oh, man. This is funny. It got a consistent 7 out of 10 from everybody.
Oh, really? Okay.
Everybody gave it 7 out of 10, except for IGN, who gave 4.5, but that was on the PSP.
Oh,
everyone reviewing it for the Xbox and the PS3 gave it a 7 out of 10, which I think just goes to show of a game that can. Because it was aggressively unfun to play.
I was going to say so middle of the road.
Yeah, every individual design decision in that game actively hampers your ability to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, it's just I use the term when I was playing it of this is just morally repugnant. It is offensive, but I don't mean offensive in the sense it says something, but I mean it is offensive to people's basic inherent human dignity of the things it is asking you to do and casually dropping as sins that deserve to be punished.
Yeah.
That was a bit in the game. He gets the Circle of Wrath, and they have the Celtic folk hero, Boudica. And it tells you, what the fuck's... And I saw that and went, I know Boudica, what the fuck's she doing in hell? And it tells, do you want to know what Boudica did as described by the game?
Oh, God.
Oh, she saw her daughters get raped and murdered in front of her, raised an army and slaughtered the people who did it. She's condemned to hell for being angry. It's what?
I'll be the people who did it, well.
So, they succumb to the the sin of anger and wrath. It's but that's super justified.
And that's the thing is, I get making a video game about this, but then maybe you shouldn't take it so literally, and maybe there should be a statement to be said about questioning, well, why is this person in hell for that?
That's
she defended her daughters or whatever.
And that's one of the things that got me off of. If that game would have been released now, I was saying if they made this game but with the same tone as Senua's Sacrifice, which handles a similar thing, going into an afterlife and experiencing that. That was the Norse mythology, isn't it? Their idea of the afterlife, I believe. It's set in Viking times, if I remember correctly.
So. I've not played through Senua's Sacrifice. I just know bits and pieces about the game.
With the super meaty, visceral combat. Mm-hmm. But it's they had, I believe, and this, again, it just speaks to how much the industry has grown. They had experts on mental health come in to talk to them and advise them on how to make things in that game not be offensive to people afflicted with those conditions.
One of the top credits on the game when you start the game, I believe, is mental health advisors.
So if they made this today, and it was just a trip through this realm, and it could be I don't like to use the term walking simulator, but some of the best parts of that game are just walking through the various depictions of hell.
Right. Okay.
Of here's the realm of sloth, and here's how the people are punished for being thought that you could just have a bit where you walk through that, a couple of combat encounters, seeing all this super cool visual imagery. Maybe have a voiceover reading lines from the poem, and then you go to the next steps. Just boss fight at the end of each one.
Yeah.
Make it 4 hours long, done.
And that's it. Sounds like that should have been more like what the game is, because from what you've mentioned offhand to me is that game is just padding beyond belief. Yeah,
it's from that again. It's a relic of that era of we need to get value. Mm-hmm. There needs to be value in this video game, so it can't just be 3 hours of combat because then people will stop playing it after 3 hours. It has to have 7 hours of shitty fucking platforming in it as well. It's like, ugh. I think my playthrough took me like 7 hours, and 5 hours were spent doing platforming.
Yeah, and that's
in
the
a
thing
hack and slash adventure game.
This is prime time for single player games having multiplayer modes added onto them just willy nilly, like the Tomb Raider reboot, Bioshock 2, Dead Space 2 and 3. Like, this was prime time for those like random multiplayer additions, because guess what? We don't want a single player game that's going to last 5 to 20 hours that people are going to play through, and then they're going to sell back and go, or they're going to buy it secondhand, or they're going to rent it. Like, they need something to get like the claw stuck into. Make sure, as you say, there's like value.
Well, guess what Dante's Inferno had as DLC?
Was it some shitty multiplayer thing?
And a multiplayer mode, yes, with a character who is unnamed in the story.
Fab, yeah. How does multiplayer mode work for that then?
It's just you both play as characters with the same moveset, but it's like Bloody Palace, where you're just killing endless enemies.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, just Bloody Palace mode, basically.
Well, what made it so disappointing for me is like, it's made by Visceral Games. Yeah, and like they went on to make like Dead Space.
Well, no, they were making Dead Space 1 and 2. I think Dead Space 2 came out in 2010 as well, I think.
It is. Have a look. Space 2, Dead Space, the first game. Let's have a look. Dead Space is a science fiction horror space. Where's the game?
Dead Space.
2008, it says. Dead Space 1.
And then
2008, they'd already made Dead Space, and then they made this piece of shit.
Yeah, like Dead Space 2, I'm pretty sure was like 2010 as well, so maybe there's 2 teams at Visceral.
That's fucking bad. Like, they'd already made Dead Space, which, you know, it's not fantastic story-wise, but it does have those elements of, like...
I'd argue that Dead Space 1 was pretty fucking great story-wise.
I mean, like, it's a bit
like,
generic.
Simplistic.
Yeah, it's a very simple story, but it's told very well, and they do have...
It had a cool plot twist.
And the themes of, like, Isaac Clarke slowly losing his mind.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were really interesting.
2 and 3 off the rails. I hate the story of course, 2 and 3, but, like, I think Dead Space 1 had a pretty damn solid story, as simplistic as it was.
Really tight, really, like, you know, well made, and just like solid foundations on which they built a franchise which just fell over.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize
I love in terms of, like, you know, atmosphere and gameplay and stuff, but the story, it goes so far off the rails and so far into like this weird like shit about the marker, and then they double down on it in Dead Space 3, and it's
Dead Space 3 ends on a cliffhanger where a moon comes in, and it's like, I don't care. Made that classic blunder of like the scale of every story's got to go up. And I think Dead Space 2 nailed it, because they do have those action set pieces, and those action set pieces are fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought, we have to top. It's like, don't top it. What you do after that is you go back to a smaller scale story.
Yeah.
Bring it back down, refocus the mechanics, tighten those up, and then when you do a sequel with those new refined mechanics, then you can go back up. You can't just keep increasing in scale.
Dead Space 3 is one of those games where I wish they got to make the Dead Space 3 they were wanting to make in the first place.
And not the Dead Space 3 they were forced to make.
Yeah, like the one with a lot less emphasis on just like gunfights, and where the co-op was meant to be like that both players were hallucinating and couldn't see the same things as each other.
Yeah, but instead they just turned it into Call of Duty in space.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put all the microtransactions in, because that was peak era for just shitty microtransactions. And Dead Space is, for better and worse, like a pioneer of that. Of like the amount of, especially like, you know, console exclusive DLC those games got. Do you remember like the first Dead Space had console exclusive DLC that gave you
Xbox
benefits?
Armor, didn't it?
Yeah. And then you had behind the scenes arguments of like Xbox wanting their armor to be better than the PlayStation armor in terms of the stat boost that it gave you and stuff like that. And then they were handing out like codes to GameStop that gave you new weapons that were more powerful and letting companies bid on them.
And like pre-order bonuses that also gave you like armor suits that just made the game way easier from the second one and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things of just like Dead Space. And I hope it's not in the remake.
I don't think a lot of it was in Dead Space 1, though, was it?
There was quite a few like post-game DLCs, like such as like the Xbox Arm, like Dead Space 2 was rife with that shit.
Yeah, and then 3 got even worse. Like that's peak fantastic, like, you know, team behind the game as the EA. Just you see them just like getting greedier and greedier, giving into that
like
sin.
Me, yeah. Like me, sticking the fingers into those pies.
And just like you see EA's fingers get more and more over each Dead Space title, and they're just like all the creepy, nasty shit comes in.
And when you go watch those like interviews with Glenn Schofield, and you can just see how passionate he is to make the game, and then you just see him like when he gets asked about, so what are the struggles of making Dead Space? And you just see him just like, oh, and he has to be diplomatic because he wants to keep like, you know, working in the industry. And it's like, you know, there was like no messaging from up above, and the messaging of what we were trying to say was different. So, you know, we ultimately parted ways. It's like, you know, he wants to say fuck EA. We didn't want to put in microtransactions on the weapon building shit.
Yeah, and it's like, that's why, you know, I am excited for Callisto Protocol, and I'm really excited for Callisto Protocol now that it's been officially decoupled from PUBG.
Oh yes, it was only part of their universe for a bit, because while it was in development,
PUBG became so successful. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, if anyone's unaware. The battle royale that kicked it, like the battle royale scene off more like before Fortnite just copied it and took over. And all, you know, PlayerUnknown was doing stuff before Battlegrounds, but that was the one big. And yeah, it's just weird that they were like, right, we're becoming a giant like worldwide company doing like loads of different things, fingers in many pies again. They are now a publisher, and they greenlit Callisto Protocol, but it was in the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds universe, even though it was like some weird game set hundreds of years in the future on Callisto, and it's like, how are they going to be linked in any way? But then they were like, it's not.
Just reminds me a little bit of the stuff we were seeing with like Dante's Inferno. Like they looked and they saw, wow, this is popular, and they just start pointing to the stands of like, look at all this shit we're gonna do, and that's like dramatically scaled back. But I am looking forward to the Callisto Protocol as well. But before we move on from Dead Space, do you have a favorite Dead Space set piece? Because that game became so well known for like the set piece. And like Isaac Clarke just becomes like a fucking monster by the end of that series in terms of like the shit he's able to do. And I love that throughout those games, he gets progressively more pissed off that he has to keep dealing with that shit. So like, the first game is a panicked engineer fighting for his life. The second game, he's tired of that shit, but he knows what he's doing. He's still scared, but he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you know, it's just this reserved, just like, okay, I'll get it done. And then the third one, he's actively pissed off that he's still doing it.
Bear in mind, everyone didn't speak in the first game.
Didn't speak a single word now.
He just got told where to go and what to do, and he's like, oh, okay. And like he had the grunts and the screams and the shouts.
The most man grunts ever. Yeah, yeah.
He was like, you know, he was the survival horror in space version of just Link, where the only thing he would do is like,
You did. Would you have like a favorite set piece from those games? Because mine. Okay, go for yours. If you got it straight in mind, that's a good series.
One thing straight in mind for favorite and then least favorite.
Okay, let's go.
I think my favorite one is probably the nursery scene in Dead Space 2.
When you walk in and like the little baby comes out and the lady hugs it and just explodes. You're like, the fuck is going on?
And you're like, oh no, and it's all like the creepy nursery music, like played down and like, you know, slowed down, and like you've got the lights flashing, but then you look around and it's like all the bright, nice playrooms covered in like children's toys and stuff, but then like screaming explosive babies come at you, or like the scratchy toddler enemies and stuff. It's oh no, these babies all got fucked up and turned into necromorphs.
And that was a great moment as well to play on a like when people say, could you go back and experience piece of media for the first time? It'd be that one of like going through and thinking they're not going to have the balls to make an enemy type that's a baby.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because when I was playing through Dante's Inferno, there is a baby enemy in that. And that's one of those other things as well, because all the enemies you're fighting are in hell.
Right.
So when they introduce the babies in it, it's like, oh, there's a baby here.
Baby in hell. Yeah.
And they talk about how these are the unbaptized souls, but you have the ability to punish the unbaptized. It's like, I guess fuck these babies for
not being baptized by their parents. What?
Dying of dysentery before they got baptized, and you can send them to hell. And it's like, why is that an option?
But But yeah, like least favorite, and it's maybe a moment you might pick for your favorite.
Okay.
But like, swapped around. So Dead Space 1 had the enemy that couldn't die. Dead Space
Yes.
2 brought back the enemy that couldn't die, but also gave you like no proper save points between that ripping your asshole out and then the final boss of the game with like no save points, no health, nothing between, like no shops, just you got fucked up by this thing and immediately into the final boss.
Yeah, and I kind of managed to avoid that because there is a way to kill that unkillable enemy at the end of Dead Space, but it's a glitch. You knock it into a fan, and it falls out of world. That's what happened. When you knock it into this fan, there's no collision behind it, and it falls out of world and just ceases to exist in the game world. But I didn't know that, and I just thought, well, there's a fan there, and environmental kills are a big part of Dead Space, so I force gunned it into the fan and killed it. And thought, well, that's what I had to do. But the game breaks after you do that, and you get no encounters for like the next 5 minutes.
Oh,
so I just thought the end of the game was like, oh, this is do all those levels that are full of stuff that you're supposed to get health for fighting this thing. None of the enemies spawn, so I just got full health pickups for the final fight. And I just thought it was like a boss fountain.
I ended up having to do that final fight with like essentially the magic pixel and no health items, and it respawned you with what you had. So I basically had to just, for hours and hours on end over multiple days, just learn how to do that fight without getting hit. And limited ammunition as well, because I'd used it all on, like... Oh,
yeah,
it was one of my worst gaming moments.
It can be the best or worst moment depending on how well you prepare. And it's like, it's a survival horror game. You should be hoarding all that shit.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about Dead Space, it's like the Resident Evil thing of on a second playthrough, you go from first time, you're like hiding around every corner, like pew, pew, pew. And then on a second playthrough, you're just like fucking Superman, just running through like kinesis, everything, stomp everything to death, get the Ripper out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, switching between weapons and stuff. But for me, both of my favorite and least favorite from the same game, Dead Space 2. Favorite is where Isaac is like, we're on the space station up in the air, and your lady friend is like, Isaac, I need help, shit's getting real. And Isaac's like, fuck, I need to get better there right now. So he puts himself into the gun and fires himself out of the gun.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, the fact that he just does it. He's like, and that's the moment in my head where I think Isaac gets like the ability to break the fourth wall of like, he knows he's not going to die because every time he does something cool, he always survives.
Yeah.
It's like, Nathan Drake tech of like, as long as he does something cool, he's going to survive. So he just like shoots himself out of that, and then you get the amazing thing of like all the sound disappears as he flies through.
The sound.
And it's just like you diving through like the debris, and then he crashes in. And I love as well that he doesn't land like a superhero. Like he actually, he falls and gets hurt.
Through it, yeah.
That's one of the best things I like about his characterization through his animations of like, he doesn't do everything flawlessly. He always fucks up a little bit, but he's resourceful enough to survive, and he he can keep an eye on his surroundings to make things work out in his favor. Like when he makes himself like a jury rigged plasma caster right at the start of Dead Space 2.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because he's an engineer, and I like that idea. But my least favorite is in the same game. It's the elevator you're going up in, and you have all the necromorphs trying to climb in through the elevator through the holes in the window because it just goes on too long.
Fair, yeah. See, I'm surprised. Honorable shout out to like the thing that neither of us mentioned, the eye needle.
I never had a problem. I do have a thing about things going into my eye, but because it's a video game, and I don't know what it is about seeing it in a video game. Like, I guess 'cause the uncanny valley is we're not quite there yet. I see it more. This is a video game character, not a person.
A very memorable moment.
It's very memorable. It's very
well
uncomfortable.
done. And the fact that like it's not just like, oh, put the needle into the eye. It's like the fact that Isaac's there and his eyes like, and the moment you like speed up with it, Isaac's eyes get more out of control, and you have to make sure that you're like slow and smooth with the needle to make sure Isaac's eye doesn't freak out. And then like you watch it like, and it's like, yeah, it's one of those moments of like, I don't know many people that have played Dead Space 2 and don't remember that moment very distinctly.
Yeah. It's a very memorable one. It's another one of those things of like, I can't believe they put this in. This seems like something you wouldn't be allowed to put in a video game, and they did it. And it's one of the things I always commend the Dead Space series for, of like taking the gauntlet that Resident Evil 4 threw down with the Regenerator. Because I feel like the Regenerator must have been a big influence on Dead Space.
Well, they basically made that Regenerator enemy, didn't they?
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, they threw it down like survival horror with action elements, and that simple combination creates near infinite replayability because you have the first experience of, like, the survival horror aspect, and then the second thing is when the action kicks in. And Dead Space and Resident Evil 4, and to a lesser extent Resident Evil 5 and the later Dead Space, as a result, are games that I can just replay.
That's the thing is, I think
all the time.
Resident Evil 4 is clearly like the tippity top in terms of which is the best of those games. But I'd say like Dead Space 1 and 2 do a good job of like holding a candle to RE4.
Yeah.
And then I kind of see RE5 and Dead Space 3 in a similar space of like, they went all out with the action scenes and the co-op, and like it became shooter rather than a horror game, but like they can be really good fun to play co-op. I think RE5's just like broken mechanics just make it a bit more fun to replay because you can like abuse like reloading during animations and stuff like that, make it super like high skill ceiling.
Yeah, which adds to the replayability there, but it became more an action game with horror elements rather than a horror game with action elements. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to both that remake and Callisto Protocol because I want to replay Dead Space. I'm hoping they put in all that cut content. There's a mass amount of cut content from the Dead Space series.
About like the development process, they showed off a lot of dev diaries of like, here's our model of Isaac in like some box rooms with like no textures, and here's like the technology behind it and stuff. So I'm glad they're being so open with that, and they have said as well that they've got like all of the original design documents from Dead Space and like the developer notes of what they originally intended to do and stuff, with like
which were expansive, yes.
So yeah, it would be really cool. Like they seem to have the like information there to be able to do that if they are given like the time and budget and stuff.
Yeah, because there's a story told. I forget the name of the video, but if you Google like Glenn Schofield Dead Space tentacle moment, there's an interview with him where he's talking about how the tentacle moment in Dead Space 1, which everyone, like, that threw everyone off.
Yeah.
Like, you walk past a couple of these holes in the ground, it's like, oh, what's that hole in the ground? And then just tentacle pops out, grabs Isaac. And Glenn was like, we needed that moment. That moment was going to be the moment where we made players never be able to relax in any part of the game. Because we needed them to never feel safe, even when there are no necromorphs there.
And the better part of that is that that's like the second or third time you walk past that hole in the wall.
Exactly. And then after that moment, you'll never feel safe in the game. That's why I said we need it. That moment needs to exist. The problem was they need to rig like Isaac in like lying down. We needed to like re-rig all of his animations with every gun in the game for lying down. Otherwise, and then make it doable for like whatever gun you happen to be holding in that moment to make it seamless. We can't only like whip out the plasma caster, for example, if you haven't got the plasma caster on him. And they just said like, something he says is there are 3 or 4 other set pieces we lost creating that moment and making it as like polished as it was. And I'm hoping that as good as that moment was, those 3 or 4 set pieces that got left on the cutting room floor get put back in, because I would love to go back through Dead Space and have stuff in there I've not seen.
Yeah.
So I get to experience it again. That shock, that surprise, that feeling of being on edge, because like, oh shit, there's new stuff I didn't know about.
Because they do kind of tease like the being unsafe when you think you're safe. They tease it very early on with like the when you're getting chased by the necromorph and like the elevator shuts before you get the plasma cutter. The elevator shuts just before the necromorph gets there, but then it like shoves its pincers through and like starts crawling in, and then the door kicks back in and chops it in half, and Isaac's like, shit in hell. But then
the game is great for moments
the fact
like
they
that.
actually pay off the moment of like, you're never fucking safe, until obviously like you replay the game and you learn the ins and outs of it and stuff. But first playthrough, like from that moment, I just say like you just don't feel safe.
Yeah, and then on a second playthrough, you learn where the seams are. And so you play like RE again, isn't it?
Yeah, and the fact that like Dead Space did all the things as well, where like you're not even safe in the menus. Like
I love that. Yeah,
if you get up your inventory to like go and heal, or if you're trying to figure out where you are on the map, you're not fucking safe because it's all like diegetic and on Isaac's character. And goddamn, like there's just so many design details that make Dead Space so special and stand out.
I'm super looking forward to the hope that potentially going to put all that cool shit in and put it all back in. But yeah, we kind of talked a lot about Dead Space, mate. Is there anything you've seen this week It's happened this week. There's a lot that's happened this week, but I'm not sure how much you actually want to talk about.
Yeah, but I mean, like, one thing I will, I was tempted to talk about. So you know what, we will. I was watching a TV show on Amazon Prime last night, and it's not like a brand new show or anything, but it's Nathan for You. Don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar. So describe Nathan for You to me.
So Nathan for You, like I'd heard a few people talk about it and say it was funny, and basically it's this guy who is like, oh look, I've got a business degree and I'm gonna go help save these businesses, but he does so in like the most over the top, these are bad ideas kind of way, but like plays it super straight as if he's being serious. So the first episode that I watched was like, goes to a frozen yogurt shop and like, how can we improve our popularity? And he's like, tell you what, make a poo flavor.
Okay, so is this like a scripted show or is it reality?
As far as I can tell, it's a reality show. I don't think there's scripted moments, but you never know with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking, is it like The Office where it's presented as like...
It's not The Office. It is meant to be a reality TV show. As I say, you don't know how much is actually staged and like, you know, set up for jokes and stuff. But like, I'm taking it at face value here because that's how it displays itself. And like, yeah. So, you know, the idea is in that first one is like, oh yeah, sell a poo flavor, but sell it for like a day or something. And then go tell all of the newspapers and get in contact with PR and stuff. Get them to do reports of this shop doing a crazy flavor. Then people will come in out of curiosity, you know.
Who doesn't want to eat the poo ice cream?
Who doesn't want? And he actually gets, you know, a company that will make any flavor to go make it. Like, I don't remember what they call it, like a simulated feces flavor or whatever. Just, you know, flavor extract. They actually made it accurate. And he paid this company to make that flavor, and they're like, well, we do say that we'll make any flavor you ask for. So I guess, and then, you know, he gets people coming in and they're like, yeah, this literally tastes like shit. And it's like, okay, but
I feel like it's one of those things that you probably would fall for it once. Because that's the thing, if someone says this is ice cream that tastes like poo.
It got a lot of people, like, you can see coming into the shop and getting a taster of the poo one, but then going and buying one of the other flavors.
Because you want to get the taste of poo out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It's a smart idea.
But, like, you know, a day later, he tells the guy, maybe this isn't the best idea. And then you just like it, you know, pans to like a picture of the shop reopening with just a little piece of paper on the front door saying like, we don't sell poo flavor anymore.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things where the same idea you could have just done just any other wacky flavor, like carrot flavor.
But
you could have just picked any other weird off the wall flavor.
I think the point of the show is to pick such a bad idea of like trying to be as straight faced and confident as possible. To make someone convinced that a poo flavor ice cream is a good idea or whatever. But the one that I got really shocked by was like, so he said to this guy who owns a gas shop, is sell and label your gas price as being super cheap, like way cheaper than any other, you know, competing area. But you have to pay full price and then go to the rebate box with this rebate form. And this rebate box is actually 2 hours away on top of a mountain. So they'd get a super cheap price if they take this rebate form to the rebate box and post it manually themselves. Otherwise, you're not losing any money because they're paying over the odds. And then it's like, but no one will do it, right? And then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, fill out this rebate
form.
Will
for that discount. People will do it.
People like that thing is they were like, oh, fill out this rebate
that guy
form.
Out of business.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the point. Is this is an awful idea, and just
that's the worst one because people that would run someone out of business.
Like, oh yeah,
did they put a limit on it?
No one will do it. So they did it for the day, and they're like, you fill out this rebate form. We've got a shuttle outside. We'll shuttle you to the bottom of the mountain, and then you've got to spend time like hiking up the mountain and stuff. And like 8 people come along in this shuttle, and they're like, "What?" It's like, who's got their entire day free to go hike up this mountain to save like $15 on gas? And then
all there with jerry cans.
And then what it is like they get there, they get to the top, and it's like, oh, we've got some riddles to do. And it turns out that in the fine print of this rebate, it's like you've got to spend all day going through riddles to find the box, and also an overnight stay is required. And then
Okay,
like,
that's taking the piss.
it whittles down though, and 3 people camp overnight on the top of this mountain with this guy. And then at the end, like, I think it's, set. This is the part where I'm thinking there must be some level of setup. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, he says, oh, we actually really got to know each other last night, and there was no rebate box. The rebate was the friends we all made along the way, and then it pans to like a rebate box that none of them got to behind them as they all walk down the mountain. Like, oh yeah, it was all fine, and I didn't think it was real anyway. But I'm
you'd be pissed off. Yeah.
But I'm like, you people were willing to like. It is that sunk cost fallacy, isn't it? Of like,
I've been here for an hour already.
You've been there for a few hours. You've been there for all night. Like, when the guy just says, well, now you've got to sleep in a camping tent and we'll find the box in the morning. It's like, well, I've already spent 8 hours of my day to try and get $10 back on gas.
Yeah, it's that thing, isn't it? Of like, once you've shit yourself in bed, it doesn't matter how much shit there is.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of like, people will go to extreme lengths to save money. And it reminded me of, have you ever heard about the 10-cent beer night?
Don't think so.
This could be an entry for a wiki. I'm thinking maybe this could be a wiki weekdays or something like that. So 10-cent beer night. If anything, it could be a fact for you, but 10-cent beer night was a promotion held by Major League Baseball, Cleveland Indians. I'm sure they've changed that name by now, or at least I'd hope they would, during a game against the Texas Rangers at the Cleveland Stadium in 1974. The idea behind the promotion was to attract more fans to the game by offering cups of admittedly low alcohol beer for 10 cents. The equivalent of 55 cents in 2021. A discount on the regular price of 65 cents, equivalent to $3.57.
Okay, yeah, so you're getting beer for what, like an eighth of the price?
Yeah. A substantial discount with a limit of 6 beers per purchase, but no limit on the number of purchases made during the game.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'm not even going to read the thing. I'm just going to read, like, the summary on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
So date, June 4th, 1974. Time, evening. Location, Cleveland. Cause, fan animosity from a previous game combined with a low point beer being sold cheaply and liberally, 10 cents per cup. Participants, the Cleveland Indians, the Texas Rangers baseball clubs, and several thousand inebriated attendees.
Mm-hmm.
Outcome, Rangers Indian game forfeited to Texas. Non-fatal injuries, unknown. So it was a riot. A riot started within like the first half an hour.
Because you just told thousands of people that they can get absolutely twatted for like $1.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the thing, for like, that cheap beer or something like, people will go to any lengths to save money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is no limit to the amount of like bullshit or hoops people will jump through to save that amount of money. Like, how many times have you been to an event where it's like open bar and people they get like 6 drinks?
Oh yeah.
Straight away.
And that's we attended a friend's wedding where they were like, look, we've just bought a load of bottles in because the place doesn't have a license, but what we have done is all the drinks are free, but there are a few members of staff standing at the drinks tables
To stop people just taking them.
And handing out the drink, because the moment you've got someone watching you there is when like people will take 1 or 2 drinks and not be like, I'm going to grab 10 right now.
It's like, do you need to? It's like when you go to a buffet, innit, and you see people like they fill the plate up like this high.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's unlimited and it's like free after you paid entry. Just eat a little bit and go back. It's like, no, I need to eat it all now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do you know when you see dogs and you put food in them and they'll eat and eat and eat until they vomit and throw up, and you think, fucking hell, animals are idiots. And then you go to a buffet and see how people eat there. That's a bad one. See, that's a good one for that. I think after the level of bullshit you put people through, that can't be real.
Like, that's the thing is, like, again,
I'd be so mad after that second one.
I'm taking this TV show at face value of what it's claiming to be, but most TV shows that are reality have an element of non-reality in them, where like there's an element of scripting.
There is, yes. Oddly enough, I watched a reality TV show recently.
Okay.
And it's a reality TV show myself and my girlfriend really
Love
enjoy.
Island, yeah.
Not Love Island, no. I do want to know, though, you can tell that Love Island is partly owned by like Warner Bros, because that shit is everywhere.
Yeah.
I have never seen a TV show get a bigger artificial push than Love Island. It is fucking everywhere.
clicked
Anyway.
on Reddit the other week and it was like every third post was Love Island.
Love Island, yeah.
Man, it's mental.
Right. Some money has changed hands there. Anyway, the show is Blown Away, which is the glass blowing competition.
That, yeah.
I love reality TV shows. And did you watch the first season at all?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Do you remember the villain of the first season, Deborah?
The one who won, yeah.
The one who won, yeah, the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And so people don't, I'm accepting like this is a glass blowing competition show, and glass blowing is a very niche thing. That's one of the reasons I like reality shows like that. Of like, I get to watch this show about a super niche interest with people who are passionate about it and learn more about something I wouldn't have any knowledge of otherwise.
Yeah, I think
that to me is a very enjoyable experience.
Mentioned it on a previous podcast, and I would recommend it to people because Karl was like, "Oh, it's really funny just watching people say glory hole every few seconds." But like,
then you learn some cool stuff.
It's a really interesting show, yeah.
But they have this person in it called Deborah, and she is the ultimate, like, spoilers, because Lou said, like, she wins the first season. And she is just an awful, awful person the entire fucking time. She spends like, you think, like, in reality TV, you need a villain, but because it's like a Netflix one, and they're trying to get that, like, the same kind of energy I say is like Great British Bake Off, where there's no rivalries. It's not like they want everyone to succeed, but someone does have to lose at the end of each episode. But for the most part, they want to show this very niche, and they want to show this niche interest, but as being quite inclusive. You don't want to show people fighting and arguing. And everyone on the show is really nice, really cooperative, has nothing but good things to say about all of the competition, except for her. And I don't think I've ever seen a reality TV show where you have someone openly saying that other people there are shit. Which is like, oh, their work's just rudimentary and poor and shows like, a lack of skill. They really shouldn't be here. I'm the one who's just like, fuck, and then they win. And they win. It's so annoying.
It's really annoying as well because like multiple other seasons, including the newest one, have brought her back. And I'm like, take her off. Like, she is a horrible person. Like, she might not be a horrible person, but the way they frame her in the show, she's constantly just nasty and degrading.
Yeah, and she doesn't, and she's constantly talking about like, oh, it's art. Like I get it, it is art.
Yeah.
But art is subjective. But she talks about art as if it's objective from her point of view. Of
as
like,
if she is always correct in what she says, yeah.
And that her interpretations of individual pieces of work are the correct one, or that other people's interpretations are rudimentary.
And you get that, like, one of the two hosts is like an expert world-class glassblower and has been doing it for like 40 years or whatever. And in the latest season, like when Deborah comes back as a judge,
that's the one I wanted to mention there because my girlfriend hasn't seen the latest season.
Oh right,
and I was just watching it. It was on TV, and I just took a picture of Deborah, sent it to her, and went, "The villain of our household is back." She just sent back an emoji. Like, no, why do they keep bringing her back? She's awful.
It is awful, and like at one point, I can't remember the name of the female host, maybe Catherine. I can't remember.
It's been like a couple of weeks since I watched it, but you mentioned reality TV and I was reminded of what I watched.
But like she says something about one of the pieces that they're judging, and then Deborah just basically slaps her opinion away. Is like, no, I completely disagree. This is what's right, and says it as if again it's objective fact in it, because she doesn't like just something about the way she talks about these things like makes it seem as though she's the only person in the fucking room, and it really annoys me.
She also as well acts as if like she's the only person who's like a glass blower, and she talks about it as if, and it's really difficult to describe. So I recommend people just watch maybe that first episode of the third season when she comes in, just for the judging. And like, some of the stuff doesn't look fantastic, but it's better than what I could produce. And also, some of the people are amateurs. Like one of the people in it is like, well, I do this as a hobby, and I thought it'd be fun to join the show.
And she's got a couple of years experience or whatever, yeah. And it's like,
and she just like, it just shows like, lack of skill. He really shouldn't be in this competition. You should get rid of him. And it's like, fuck you. When's the last time you heard of a judge who wasn't Simon Cowell shitting on someone like that?
Just, yeah. I'm glad that you feel the same way, because we were, like, Jenna and I were watching it and we got visibly upset when she came back, and it's like, not again! Stop! Carl's gone.
I'm still here.
Oh, your camera's gone.
Is my camera gone?
Yes.
Yeah, but my audio's still here, right?
Your audio's fine.
Reconnect. Okay, so we didn't cut out on audio-wise. That's good.
Just double check your recording, I guess. Make sure that's still.
I think my camera just like glitched or something like that. But yeah, I'm still here. That really got to me when she came. I don't think it's like, I guess they're like, and that's the thing. They're not even like the villainous host. It's like they are a former contestant, and they're just coming on like, yeah, I'm the big dick. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Your work shit. And I thought, this is a Netflix show and it's a reality show, and like every other reality show I've watched on Netflix are always like really wholesome, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I describe it as the Great British Bake Off, where the reason that show got so popular is because they don't have the super competitive elements of other reality TV shows. It's just people enjoying and indulging in a hobby with like hosts whose enthusiasm is very infectious, and you just get to see people having fun and
and it's
making cool things.
much more enjoyable to like just sit there and binge watch an enjoyable experience rather than one that you have to like sit there and get aggravated with
Every time she's on screen, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just like when she came, I just wanted to bring up that third season when you just like going up to people's work, and like you said, you have a professional critic in that world
Mm-hmm.
talking about, well, and being very diplomatic of like, well, this, the technique might be a bit rudimentary, but I can see the messaging they're going for. It might be a bit, their interpretation of the prompt was a little bit literal, but, I still think there's like some promise here. And Deborah's like, no, it's shit.
Yeah,
but doesn't
trash.
offer any
It
sort of
doesn't belong
criticism,
here.
just says it's shit. And it's like, if you're going to be like a critic, you should at least explain your criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, the villain. So when I sent my missus that picture of like, the villain is here, and she's like, why? Why would you send me this?
Yeah, I literally started watching it like end of last week or whatever, and that first episode came on. And it was like, because she'd already been back as a judge like one time in either season 2 or like the Christmas one or something. It's like, again, why?
And I guess it's just because there's not many glass blowers. It can't be that big a world.
Yeah, but they like maybe they could get the other previous winner from season 2, or maybe they could like get other people that were contestants.
Or maybe someone who's just not
anyone with a likable fucking personality.
And that's the thing, is like, what's one of the things that frustrated me as well, because I think I rewatched the first season of like, are they that bad? And it's like, and they talk about, oh, I'm a really abrasive person, but I don't care what other people think. And it's like, oh no, they're aware of the fact that people don't like the way they act, but they're still acting like it. Yeah. They don't like, that's bad.
Yeah, they're one of those people of like, the first thing that she says in the show is like, I'm an asshole, I don't care. Like, right, you're going to be delightful to watch, and then you hope that they get knocked out early, and it's like, no.
And they keep succeeding, they keep winning, and every time they're in, like, they don't win, they get really salty about, well, I was clearly the best person here. And it's like, there are other people besides you.
Like, never, ever being able to acknowledge that somebody else's work was better than her own.
Yeah, it's maybe they were just better than you, or, like, their version of the problem, or maybe it's just other people's, subjective opinions.
Yeah.
Differ from your own. Especially with something like art as well, with art being so creative and embracing like creativity, to have such a rigid, regimented view of it really put me off. But yeah, the villain of
but the show's great, to be fair.
The show is fantastic, yeah, but like she is like a blight on it.
One person out of 3 seasons has just been super horrible.
Because like everyone else on it is like either adorable or just like really endearing.
Yeah, and a lot of, a couple of them come in and are like quite confident in their abilities, but none of the rest of them are like, well, everyone else's work is shit and I'm the best.
Yeah, and I think one of the bits that got me is rewatching the first season, because they have, like, glass blowing is a very physically strenuous task, and you have assistants. And for the most part, the assistants are, like, largely hidden from view. Like, they have assistants, but the assistants are, like, off camera. It's like, they present as if they made it themselves, but sometimes you'll, like, see someone, like, handling their piece. Or,
well, it's normally that they've constantly got 2 or 3 people working on every single piece, every single episode, because guess what? While they're, like, shaping the glass, they've got someone else blowing the glass and things like that,
Well, they might just have someone, like, off to the side, like, just making sure it doesn't fall off the edge.
Or helping and one of the things that pieces and stuff like that,
And one of the things that I remember is that she's the only person who yells at her assistant.
Yep.
Like, she yells at her assistant on camera and is like, do what you fucking told you in it. And, like, just ringing them out on TV.
Yep. And everyone else is super, like, polite to them. And
because you're helping me.
And, I think there's a couple of times where, like, the assistants mess up and they're like,
drop
don't worry about it. Like, it's fine. We can sort this out. We can work together. And treating them as, like, human beings. Oh. Yeah.
And it's just the fact that person got rewarded with like a massive cash prize and then prestige within the industry to give them more ability to abuse and annoy people.
And don't get me wrong, they were a talented glassblower. They're
just not a very talented person.
Yeah.
In the realm of like, personality and being personable, they don't have that talent.
They definitely don't. Which is why it's very surprising that they keep getting brought on to become a judge, because at that point, The glass blowing part of the element is out the window. The personality is what matters at that point.
And it's a Netflix show, so it's not like you need to do the thing between. Like Joe sometimes like for like RuPaul's Drag Race, something like go tease the next episode, like who's coming in for the next episode, and they tease who it's going to be. So you don't need to do that. It's a Netflix show. We've got all 8 episodes just live day one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can end it on fuck that lady. I hate her in that show, but that show is really good. I recommend people go watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you have anything to plug? Because it'll be the day this is coming out, will be your stream of what's it called, the Lamb thing.
The Lamb thing is the official name of the game. Yes. No,
is it Cult of the Lamb?
Yeah.
Cult of the Lamb. There it is. Yes.
So
and I'll be
really excited to play that, and we're gonna make a cult in the name of my sausage dog Cade, of course.
Yes, the Cade cult. Let's go.
But yeah,
the cult of sausage.
Check that out. Link for my Twitch is in the description, but it's just Legend of Kanto on Twitch.
Yeah, and for myself, I will plug the live event because I'd like to in the future be able to earn money for the channel, and then like hopefully later myself playing video games and getting drunk. So I plug the live event and the Discord where you can discuss and arrange like meetups and stuff. So there's been a few people posting of like, if I came to this like on my own, would that be all right? It's like the whole point is to meet like-minded people, get drunk, and have a good time. Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I get on it.
And yeah, so we'll be wrapping up the podcast here. But for anyone that is on a Patreon over at patreon.com/untitled side channel, I'm going to just go to the exclusive post show now and just answer a couple of patron questions.
Yeah, but we will still be doing a QA episode for the karlscornerQA at gmail.com.
Indeed, you do. That is a completely separate thing for questions, and it's like that's the email that we get. Collate all of the questions together for the QA episode specifically,
where we get more in depth in our answers and give them like the time and thought that they would warrant.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you all for joining in.
Yeah, go watch Blown Away.
Go watch Blown Away, and go watch us next week when we probably don't figure out something to do with episode 100 of season 2 of this podcast.
Yeah, what you need to do, go watch Blown Away and then go to one of like the 5 Discords we run to be like, fuck you, Carl, you're right. I'm waiting for someone like, Carl, I'm so annoyed about Deborah.
Let us know what you think about Deborah in the comments.
Let us know, yeah. Let us know if or just like send us an email of like who's your favourite villain from an obscure reality TV show.
Also say Zumbo Just Desserts Daniel. Can't remember whether it's season 1 or 2, but Daniel from Zumbo's Just Desserts.
Is he a villain in that?
He's a villain of that TV show.
Oh, man,
I think he's like laughing when people's cakes fall apart and shit.
What a prick.
Yeah. So also just shout out to that dickhead.
But you're making cakes, calm down. And that's what makes it funny. Is like when it's like glass blow. It's like this is the most pathetic you can look when you're wielding this amount of power over someone.
But yeah. Thank you everyone for joining in, and time to head over to that post show, Carl.
Go to the post show. Cheers.